At the heart of Washington, as the cold November air wrapped itself tightly around the somber gathering, I found myself amidst shadows of grief and whispered secrets. The funeral of my late husband, Charles Sinclair, was no ordinary send-off. It was a spectacle interwoven with lies, betrayal, and a clandestine message that had the power to shatter my already fragile world. As I stood in the vast marble church, enveloped in the mourning of those who had gathered to honor a man celebrated for his philanthropy and financial genius, I clutched a crumpled note that would change everything. The words etched across the paper, "Your husband didn't die. He fled with the legacy," resonated within me like a haunting dirge, each syllable sharp enough to cut through the layers of denial I had meticulously constructed over the years. My name is Eleanor Sinclair, a name that echoes through the halls of the affluent, a blend of reverence and fear, wrapped in the fine fabric of wealth and privilege. My family was the bedrock of this empire. My grandfather had etched his legacy into the annals of business history with the inception of Sinclair Enterprises, a conglomerate pulsating with power and financial clout valued at over $5 billion. Charles, with his innate gift for finance, had guided us through the labyrinth of high-stakes investments, our lives painted with the vibrant colors of luxury and gold. Yet now, as I stood in that gathering of mourners, draped in a sumptuous Dior gown, I felt the opulence of my life crumbling like a fragile sandcastle beneath the relentless waves of despair. The funeral was intended to be a tribute to a man whose laughter had once filled our grand estate with warmth, a celebration of the life he had built and the love we had shared. But instead, it felt like an elaborate masquerade steeped in sorrow. Friends and dignitaries occupied the pews, their faces a tableau of grief, adorned in navy suits that signified mourning. The heavy scent of colognes and the somber tones permeated the air, creating a stifling atmosphere that seemed to crush all hope. Among these dark hues, the note burned in my pocket with a sinister promise of secrets yet to be uncovered. As the eulogies poured forth, each word felt heavy and laced with the bitterness of betrayal. My mind drifted to memories of our extravagant soirees, the laughter cascading through the Hamptons estate, the clinking crystal, and the vibrant revelries that had been the heartbeat of our life together. Charles had been central to those moments, his charisma a beacon drawing guests into our world of glamour. Yet as I stood there, the shadow of the note loomed larger, a dark specter casting its influence over my recollections. Your husband didn't die. He fled with the legacy. The torment of that accusation echoed in the recesses of my mind. Who could harbor such cruelty amid such sorrow? In the weeks leading up to his sudden death, subtle yet sinister whispers had infiltrated the sacred walls of our home. My financial advisors, faces lined with concern, had hinted at dubious dealings entwining themselves with Charles's decisions. An uneasy knot tightened in my stomach, but I had dismissed their warnings, blinded by my unwavering trust in him and our partnership. How tragically naive I had been, apparently blind to the currents tugging at the foundation of our life together. As the last strains of the requiem faded away, I descended the grand stone steps of the church, a cold uncertainty washing over me. Once returned to our sprawling mansion, I slipped into a haunting reverie, riffling through the remnants of Charles's life. Each discovery was a dagger, his vintage Rolex resting carelessly on the table, estate catalogs from Palm Beach strewn across the coffee table, rousing memories both sweet and sharp. With every artifact unearthed, I felt a gnawing doubt, deepening within me, an inkling of the unraveling truth clawing at the edges of my consciousness. Days morphed into nights in a haze of grief and determination. I became obsessed with lurking secrets, each moment spent delving into the maze of Charles's dealings, unearthing documents buried beneath layers of deceit, my conviction hardening with each revelation. It was during one such session of uncovering that I stumbled upon a shocking discovery: an unlisted account hidden within our Swiss bank, harboring a fortune of nearly $13 million. The moment I laid my eyes on that account number, a frigid chill coiled around my spine like a serpent. As the gravity of the betrayal sunk into my bones, the specter of my husband's deceit became a tangible entity clinging to my thoughts. Who else had been involved? What other shadows loomed around our seemingly righteous empire? The disquieting ring of my phone broke through the fog clouding my thoughts. Margaret, my closest ally, was on the line, her voice trembling with urgency. "Eleanor, I have uncovered something crucial," she whispered, ready to reveal yet another layer to the sordid tale that had begun to intertwine our lives. The document she presented was an estate auction listing, a sprawling property nestled in Malibu valued at over $30 million. The listing could only indicate one truth: Charles had not simply vanished, but had meticulously orchestrated his escape for a grand new life, perhaps with illicit intentions. Panic surged within me, intertwining with a newfound resolve. The hurried trips to California, the secretive meetings, the faces I couldn't place, it was all beginning to weave into a tapestry of ambition coated in greed. As the reality of his possible escape gripped my heart, anger ignited deep inside me, racing like wildfire. I felt compelled to confront the darkness that had settled over the ruins of my life. Thus began a relentless journey fueled by anxiety and the surge for clarity. I spiraled into a digital quest, poring over endless spreadsheets, ferreting out each detail that could unveil the truth masked by Charles's charm. My laptop became a sanctuary of sorts, each keystroke bringing the magnitude of his betrayal closer to the surface. I was more than just a widow lost in grief. I had transformed into a seeker, unearthing the truth within the confines of the corporate world my husband had once commanded. As the fateful night of the auction loomed closer, anticipation crackled in the air like static before a storm. Choosing an ornate gown that gleamed like my newfound determination, I prepared to step into the den of duplicity that had once symbolized my life's work. As the elite gathered around me, their conversations a blend of aspirations and investments, I felt the weight of purpose surging through my veins. A hushed whisper fluttered across the room, and in a staggeringly theatrical moment, I was handed the floor, to speak, to reclaim my story, to stand against the malevolence that had turned my world upside down. "Ladies and gentlemen," I addressed the crowd, my voice unwavering despite the flutter of nerves coursing through me. "I stand before you to not just auction the remnants of what my life once was, but to unveil the treachery entwined with our prosperity." The room cast its zealous gaze upon me as silence fell thickly in the space. My husband, who was heralded as a titan in our industry, did not perish in the sanctity of sincerity. He fled with our legacy amid lies, deceit, and betrayal. The resonance of my words echoed back to me, raw and powerful. Gasps erupted from the audience like fireworks igniting the velvety night. As I revealed the evidence, screening documents, hidden financial accounts, and auction listings detailing his audacious plans, the truth materialized like a dawn breaking through a long night. The whispers and murmurs of disbelief rippled through the fine silk ties and polished shoes surrounding me. What had once symbolized success turned into a currency of shame and deception, revealing the hidden machinations of the man I thought I knew. Shock washed over the assemblage, faces contorting as confusion and horror intertwined, a moment etched in time, forever binding us in this shared, unreal revelation. With each gaze fixed upon me, it became frighteningly apparent. Wealth had a dark underbelly. Loyalty was a mirage. The Sinclair name could no longer be synonymous with fraud. It had become the touchstone of an unseen reality, a legacy built on treachery, desperately needing redemption. In those fragments of time, something ignited inside me. A tenacity I hadn't known existed began to pulse through my veins. This was more than an unveiling. It was a call to arms, an echo of my resilience against the landscape of betrayal that sought to consume my legacy. Empowered with fierce determination, it dawned upon me that I could not simply reclaim my narrative, but spearhead a transformative era for Sinclair Enterprises. No longer would I allow our name to dwell in the chastity of greed and avarice. Instead, the foundation would be retied with integrity, transparency, and community engagement. As I formulated plans that extended beyond mere business interests, I reached out to former employees, a network of forgotten souls who had once been instrumental to our success. Town hall meetings blossomed into platforms for shared experiences, teaching me the ripple effects of deceit in the broader world. Each individual's testimony was a key, unlocking wounds I didn't even know resided within me. The tidal wave of stories began to forge an alliance built on trust, openness, and a yearning for change. With every connection, my vision expanded. I was no longer simply a woman wronged. I was a leader rising from the ashes, igniting passion for ethical practices within the industry. My name, Eleanor Sinclair, now stood not only for affluence, but for authenticity, a powerful move against the detractors I had once called my own. The fresh energy stemming from these alliances refueled my ambition to turn our empire into a bastion of economic integrity, facing betrayal and hardship with courage. Days transformed into weeks, each moment inching me closer to the grand purpose I had carved from anguish. As I envisioned the future of Sinclair Enterprises, a phoenix rising from the ashes of deceit, the legacy it would craft would be rooted in authenticity, compassion, and connection. The journey ahead was bound to be fraught with challenges, but my scars, each emblem of betrayal, would only serve to deepen my resolve, steering me toward a destination where pride rested on uncompromising honesty. Emerging from the abyss of my past, I no longer identified solely as a grieving widow enveloped in despair. I was reborn as a resilient force with a vision to reclaim my place. What does wealth signify without trust? How could we amass fortunes under the weight of deceit? These questions became my guiding principles as I marched forward, propelled by a commitment to nurturing relationships and reclaiming our lost integrity. The legacy crafted in my wake would flourish not merely from financial accolades, but would blossom from the intersections of mutual respect and accountability. Standing on the precipice of now, I pondered the roadmap that lay ahead, a map to carve a path illuminating each decision made with integrity and purpose. The legacy I constructed would reflect not just the numerical values of assets amassed, but the powerful bonds formed and nurtured along the way. As I took my first steps into what was bound to be an uncharted future, I put aside my fear of the unknown. I knew that the path leading from betrayal could yield flowers of triumph, blooming in the warmth of honesty and nurtured by genuine connections. I marched forward into the horizon with conviction, each footfall resonating with the rhythm of hope, courage igniting a fire in my heart. In the embers of my past, I found a pioneering spirit, and now, as I gaze forward, I embrace the legacy that has swelled from the ashes of disillusionment. I am Eleanor Sinclair, no longer cloaked in grief, but illuminated by a newfound resolve, ready to embrace the challenges of tomorrow. The echoes of my name resonate now with a powerful narrative I continue to compose, a journey steeped in authenticity and commitment to uplifting others along the way. And so I stride onward, fueled by intention, fortified by every lesson learned, ready to write the next chapter of a legacy defined by trust, resilience, and the unwavering courage to rise.